My name is Anna. I'm a welfare benefits advisor at Maggie's. Maggie's is a national charity available to anyone with a cancer diagnosis and their friends and family. I work at the West London Centre, which is quite local to here, but there are 28 Maggie centres across the UK. So before I start talking about welfare benefits and financial support, I'll just give you a little bit of an oversight on who Maggie's are and how you might access the other services we provide as well. Before I do that, could I just see a show of hands? Has anyone heard of Maggie's before? Okay, actually, quite a lot of people. Okay, that's good. Has anyone been into a Maggie's centre? Okay, a few people have been in as well. That's wonderful. So, yes, what is Maggie? So we're a national charity, 28 centres across the UK, and we're named after our founder, who was a lady called Maggie Keswick-Jenks. She was living with cancer back in the late 80s, early 90s, and together with our CEO, who has been involved in Maggie since the very start, she created this cancer charity which was designed to provide a different type of cancer care. So away from the clinical setting, it was designed to provide that extra support that people need when they're going through their diagnosis and treatment. So Maggie centres, they're community spaces, open to anyone living with cancer as well as friends and family, and we're independent to the NHS. So we're independently funded, but Maggie centres, they're always on the site of an NHS hospital, so they're easily accessible for people who are going through treatment, but independent to the NHS and the clinical setting. Each centre has a different programme of supports, including group work and one-to-one work. And we do also have some support groups that are available online. So although there are 28 centres, we're aware that there are still some parts of the country which don't have a Maggie centre, and those centres aren't available for everyone to go into in person. So we're kind of building a bit more of an online programme, and there's also sort of telephone and email support as well. However, much of the support we offer is accessed by dropping into a Maggie centre. So I'll provide maybe links to the website where you can search for your nearest centre to Kathy, and then she can maybe send that around after the meeting in case you've not been to one before and there is one local to you. So each centre has a different programme of activities. And this is an example of what a Maggie centre looks like. This is where I work in West London. It's a very beautiful building. All the centres are designed by quite top architects, and the idea is that they provide a very welcoming, calming space, very different to a clinical setting. So our West London centre, it's all quite open plan here. We always have a kitchen table that people can sit around and meet other people, and then there's other private spaces and nice gardens and so on. So this is what you could expect to see if you walked into a Maggie centre. So in terms of the programme of support available at Maggie's, we run support groups for specific tumour types. As far as I'm aware, I don't think there are any just support groups at any of the Maggie centres, but I will double check because I work at West London. I only really know what's available at West London, so I can double check if there are any other sites that offer just specific support groups. But we always have more generalist groups as well. So for instance, we have a young men's group, young women's group, we have like managing stress, living alone with cancer, which are available to a wider group of people. And there's also lots of therapeutic activities. So we do art therapy, yoga, we do Nordic walking at our centre, creative writing. There's all sorts of different creative things going on as well. And at every Maggie centre, we have what are called cancer support specialists. So these are medical professionals who used to work in cancer care in a clinical setting. So they have a lot of clinical medical knowledge, but they're also trained to provide one-to-one psychological support with people. So every Maggie centre has at least one, usually a team of cancer support specialists. We also have psychologists. So generally, if people want one-to-one kind of counselling, emotional support, that will begin by speaking with a cancer support specialist, either in person at the centre or over the phone. But if the cancer support specialist feels that person needs some more in-depth support, they'll refer them to a psychologist, and they'll have a series of one-to-one meetings. There's no set time limit. It's what the psychologist thinks that that person might need. And the final part of the Maggie's program, the Maggie's offer, is support around welfare benefits and financial assistance. So that's what I do. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So, benefits at Maggie's. I always emphasize this when I speak to groups. Everyone's circumstances are really different. Financially, socially, who you live with, and so on. So, although I'm going to provide some generalist advice now, I always recommend speaking either to myself or a colleague like me, one-to-one, to discuss your specific situation to see what benefits you might be entitled to. It really depends on things like your age, where you're living, whether you're living alone, whether you have children, you live with a partner, you pay rent. So these are all the kinds of things I would speak with someone about when I first meet with them. And then I'd be able to check quite quickly whether you're entitled to claim any benefits. The other things that I often do, and my colleagues will do, is if you're getting benefits already, I'll check if they're correct. Sometimes they're not. So some people might be getting a disability benefit because of a previous health condition, but because of a GIST diagnosis or even a different health condition, they haven't updated, they haven't been through a review in a while, and they might be entitled to a higher rate of disability benefit, for example. Often as well, I see people's benefits being miscalculated just due to errors. So it might be that they're being underpaid, so I will always check what you're getting already, and if something's gone wrong, I'll help appeal decisions and so on. We'll help people make claims and take them through the claims process. And if someone's turned down for a benefit, typically that would be a disability benefit, and we feel like they really do meet the entitlement, we'll appeal that decision and we'll take it all the way to tribunal if we need to. So quite frequently represent people at disability benefit tribunals. So each Maggie Centre operates a little bit differently in how they provide initial advice. Most centres, it's on a drop-in basis. So at our centre in West London, myself and a colleague are available most days of the week for a few hours in the day to meet people first of all, spend 10, 20 minutes with them, find out about them, and then book a follow-up appointment. Some Maggie centres, particularly if they just have one advisor, you'll come in, you'll meet with the cancer support specialist, you'll get to know the building, but then they'll book in an appointment with a benefits advisor. So the best thing to do is probably go on the website, find our email and phone number before you come in, and just give the centre a ring or drop them an email to find out how they operate before you come in and need to seek advice around benefits. So, although I've said it's really important to get the individual tailored advice, I will give a bit of an overview about some things some of you might be entitled to. And I'm happy to hang around a little bit after the presentation if anyone has any specific questions that they want to go through about their situation. So, the benefits that we look at for people are broadly divided into what are called means-tested benefits and non-means-tested benefits. So, what means-tested means is that your entitlement to that money depends on your income and your savings. So if you have over a certain amount of savings or over a certain amount of household income, you wouldn't be able to claim these. So those benefits are universal credit for people under state pension age, and if you're over state pension age, it's pension credit, housing benefit. Everyone, depending on whether they're over or under state pension age, provided they're on a low income, could also claim council tax support to get a reduction in their council tax bill. That is dependent on income and savings rather than anything to do with your health. So those are those first type of benefits, the means-tested ones. And at the top there, I've put a list of what are called non-means-tested benefits, which you can claim irrespective of income and savings. They don't ask you anything about your money, anything about your partner's income, household income, nothing like that. But the eligibility depends on your health and the impact that your health has on your ability to either work or do day-to-day things. These first four benefits listed here which one you claim depends on how old you are, basically. So disability living allowance, very few people claim that now. You can only make a new claim for that if you're under 16, but some people who've been on it for a long time continue to get that benefit. Personal independence payment is the main benefit that we help people with, because it's the disability benefit for people over 16 but under state pension age. If you are over state pension age, instead of personal independence payment, you would claim attendance allowance instead. It's also a disability benefit, similar criteria, but it's a different application, a different process. And finally, there's a benefit called employment and support allowance, which a lot of people will claim if they're not well enough to work, but they have income and savings, which means they can't claim universal credit, for example. This benefit, employment support allowance, it depends on your national insurance contributions. You'd have had to make contributions in the last 2 to 3 years. So these are the main benefits that we would help people claim. And we'd figure out, usually within about 10, 15 minutes of speaking with someone, which one we think they'd be entitled to. I'm going to talk a little bit about personal independence payment, because this is something we help a lot of people with. So this is a disability benefit that you can claim if you're under state pension age. Like I said, it's not means tested. They're not going to ask anything about income. But the eligibility for PIP, personal independence payment, it depends on how your health condition affects your ability to carry out various day-to-day activities, or how it affects your mobility. There's 2 parts of the test. So there are 2 components of PIP. You can get money for needing help with daily living, day-to-day tasks, or you can get money for needing help with mobility, or you can get both. You can get both components at the same time. It's a points-based assessment. So the way you qualify is you have to fill in a very long form, which we do with people. There's then a very long telephone assessment. You also send in lots of medical evidence, and then they decide whether you score enough points across the assessment to receive the benefit. So they ask about things like, do you have difficulty, or do you need help with cooking, washing, dressing, walking, reading, mixing with other people? There's quite a few areas, but generally you need to show that you've got difficulty with a range of day-to-day things to score enough points to get the benefit. There's 2 rates. If you score at least 8 points in the assessment, you'll get the standard rate. If you score 12 points, you get a higher rate, which basically means a higher payment. The other one I wanted to draw attention to a bit is universal credit. So this is a benefit that many people will claim if they are under state pension age and they are on a low income. So a low income means you can't have household savings, so you and your partner can't have savings of more than £16,000. And the second part of the assessment is much more complicated. There is a basic way that they calculate what you can get, where they look at who's living in the house. Is it you? Is it a partner? Do you have children? You get like an extra element for having children. Are you paying rent? How much is your rent? And then there's a calculation basically when you add together all of those components. Many people receive universal credit and they still work. It just depends on how much they're earning, whether they can get payment on top. So we often support people who are working part-time, so they're on a reduced income. So they still get money from work, but they can top up their earnings from work through a universal credit payment. And there are extra amounts of universal credit you can be paid if you're a carer, or if you have a health condition which significantly impacts your ability to work. So we frequently apply for this extra part of universal credit with people coming in. What that means is this extra part, so I don't know if some people in this room might be getting universal credit already. If you are and you don't think you're getting this extra health component, then you're welcome to talk to me afterwards and I'll see if you can get it. I always highlight it because many people are underpaid this part of universal credit, and it's worth an extra £423 a month, so it's worth having. Most people who claim universal credit and they declare that they have a health condition have to go through a long assessment to decide whether they can get this extra payment. However, many people going through cancer treatment don't need to go through all of that. It is enough that they can there's a form that needs to be filled in, and provided their medical team can sign that form to confirm they're going through treatment, this is the definition at the bottom here, it covers a wide range of treatment, including hormonal treatment and targeted therapy. Provided they can demonstrate that and the medical team signs it off, they can get this extra bit of money from the universal credit. So that's why I'm drawing attention to that part. If you're over state pension age, it wouldn't be universal credit that you claimed, but pension credit if you're on a low income. But again, there's lots of different caveats to these rules, which is why it's always just good to speak to an advisor one-to-one. And like I said, I'll get Kathy to pass on my email address and other Maggie Centre's details if you want to speak with a benefits advisor. Other things just to highlight, as well as benefits, there's other ways that you can get help with finances, discounts and so on. We do a lot of Blue Badge applications for people. So that's Blue Badge disabled parking permit. So you can park in a disabled bay, or you can even park on double yellows for, I believe, up to 2 hours if you have a Blue Badge. So they're really useful if you're going into hospital, having appointments, hanging around for a really long time, or just out and about. So Blue Badges, there's different ways you can qualify. Some people can get a Blue Badge because they get a disability benefit and they get the mobility part of it. But you don't have to get a disability benefit to apply for a Blue Badge. You just need to show that the health condition you have impacts your mobility. So that may be due to fatigue, it may be due to pain, it may be due to dizziness or poor balance, or a whole range of things. And you just need, usually we get a clinic letter that describes what the person has been diagnosed with, their symptoms, and that's usually enough to demonstrate that they have a difficulty walking. As well as Blue Badges, it's worth being aware of free prescriptions that people can get if they have a cancer diagnosis. In order to get a prescription exemption certificate, you have to go to your GP. There's a special code that I can't remember, which the certificate is called. It's like a TC something or other. You don't need to remember that. You can just ask your GP, can I get a certificate for free prescriptions? They'll write one up for you and you get it in the post. And then you can present it to the pharmacy when you collect prescriptions. Utilities discounts, so these range. Some water companies, Thames Water, Affinity Water, lots of different water companies up and down the country will give 50% off for people with a low household income, but also a cap on their water if they are using more water because of a health condition. So if you're using the toilet more frequently or you're needing to wash more frequently. So we sometimes apply for discounts on water. Some energy companies as well, they're not that generous. Most tariffs are pretty similar, but if you end up in debt with your energy company, a lot of the big ones you can apply to, it's called a customer assistance fund, and you can get some of that debt wiped off. So we sometimes do that. And lastly, grants for household items. So we meet people in lots of different situations. I deal with people who've been through homelessness, have been placed in temporary accommodation, so on. We'll get people fridges, sofas, washing machines, whatever they need. Or if there's a specific piece of equipment you might need for home, specific chair, bed, something like that. There's lots of different charities that we can apply for grants to. So although Maggie's doesn't have a pot of money that we can distribute out to buy specific items, as an advisor I can apply to other charities for grants, and we have some success doing that. So there's a little bit of an overview, and I know there's a lot of information there. But if anyone has any general questions, I'm happy to answer them now, or if you'd prefer to come and see me afterwards, I'll hang around for a bit, and I'll also get Kathy to sort of distribute my contact details and details about Maggie's.
Thank you very much. Yeah.